Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox. Here again to remind you that this is the best season of your life. This journey of self discovery that we are going through is really becoming, I've been going through my journey for the longest time. Again, the journey doesn't have a destination. It just goes on and on and on. And that's how we continue to evolve and grow and progress and things of that nature, which is just so fascinating. And see, for me, because I am always digging in and studying and just searching out, because the more you know, it's just, well, for me, the more I know, the more I learn that I don't know. So I am just really motivated and inspired to continue to dig and to check and to seek and to search and so forth and learn some things. Now, I know that you're doing the same thing also, because you have reached a point where from this journey of self discovery, which is to, of course, become your true authentic self and live a life of freedom and your truth and be able to enjoy your best life now, regardless of what level you are. It doesn't matter your situation, your circumstances. You will learn things that will enable you to live your best life in the midst of everything that's going on. And hopefully, it's a lot of great stuff, because one of the secrets that I know, or that works for me, and again, everybody has their own truth, but one of the things that works for me is the more I remain positive and optimistic and just really live with an expectation of goodwill and well-being and good relationships and all that, I just seem to attract more of that every day into my life. And one of the things that I'm learning uh, at this point is the power of vulnerability. We don't like to be vulnerable, just because when you're vulnerable, you can, you open yourself up. But because I am learning to, when I say I don't really care what people think or say, there is truth to that, but you have to reach a place of comfort. You have to come into your comfort zone so that you know, regardless of what people say, do, or think, it doesn't really affect you. And the more that happens to me, I am free to allow myself to be vulnerable, and I'm finding the value in that. As a matter of fact, I put it to the test. Being vulnerable generally involves people, and so I am putting myself to the test every day, and it's okay, because it's just part of me that I'm discovering. You really open yourself to be criticized, to be judged, a whole lot of emotional things to be, but it's okay. It's okay, because it's part of your growth. So I encourage you, as you learn different things about yourself, to really yield to it, because all of that is going to help you. Just like you're saying that you are stuck with this with your religious doctrine, and how it's affecting your ability to grow and evolve, because it conflicts with what you want. One of the things that I want to talk to you about today is about church. I always say that it's important that you understand that you know why you believe what you believe, because many of you have uh, grown up in the church, and that's all you know. You grew up in church, and you know what you have been indoctrinated to believe. Some call it brainwashing, and in essence, that's what it is, because it's the training, the information, all the stuff that you've been programmed and conditioned to believe, and then you grow with that. That's all you know. And if you have not ever questioned it, what happens is that that information shapes your identity. It establishes a belief system, and it shapes your identity, and you go through life sometimes frustrated because you want to be a certain way, but because of the teaching, you believe there's no out. But as you go through this journey of self-discovery, you will discover the truth of you, the truth of yourself, and subsequently you will be able to you will learn your truth, and that's the truth that's going to set you free. That's the only truth you need, because my truth or no other truth is going to set you free. It's going to be your truth. So when I talk about the church, you have to understand, how did it all started? What is the church? Who is the church? But I'm going to talk about the church based on the different doctrinal beliefs, because that's what, when you talk about you believe in God or Jesus and all that, it's based on a religious doctrine. And if you know how it started, then you will know what you need to do. Now, we all know that the Roman Catholics, they claim that they were the first church. And there is some dispute around that, because the folks at Ephesus claim that they are the first Christians. But I believe they were not like really organized, so they didn't really have any stake in claiming that themselves as a church. So the Roman Catholic came along and they were organized, and they were the religion. They were the stuff. I mean, they were the religion that everyone adhered to. But during that time, there were some, other scholars and people that were involved in reading the Bible and all of that. And there was this theologian. His name was Martin Luther. He was a German uh, theologian, pastor, teacher, professor, so forth. So Martin Luther comes along, and he did not like the doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church. He did not like it. He did not like the way they did the things, the Eucharist, the this, the that. He did not like it. He wanted something a little more profound. So Martin Luther founded the Lutheran Church. He established the Lutheran Church, and he took the Bible and he tweaked it, and he established the doctrine that he wanted to implement for Lutherans. Now, remember, the Catholic Church is there, but they rejected that and started the Lutheran Church. And so, there they are in their church and so forth. And then comes along this guy, John Calvin. He was part of that congregation, and he's like, you know what? No, I don't really like this. And he rejected the Lutheran doctrine. John Calvin rejected the Lutheran doctrine, and he established what's called the Protestant Calvinist Church. So remember, now we have the Catholic Church, we have the Lutheran Church, and now we have the Protestant Calvinist Church. It is fascinating. These are all mortal men, just like you, with a brain, with a heart, with intuition, and with courage. So John Calvin said, no, 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 no. I don't like that. I don't like the Catholic. I don't like the Lutheran doctrine. So I'm going to tweak the scripture, the Bible, and establish my own doctrine. So the Protestant Calvinist Church was established. During that time, King Henry was ruling, and King Henry, he needed an heir. He didn't have a son. He needed a son who would be his heir. He was married to Catherine. Catherine gave him 7 children, and they all died. They died young, like an infant. Only one survived, and so he was not happy with that. He went to the Pope, to the Catholic Pope, and asked to divorce Catherine. The Pope said, no, 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 because remember, the Pope is ruled by the Roman Catholic Church. And you know how Catholics are with divorce. And the Pope said, no, absolutely not. So King Henry got not happy. He got mad, and he revolted. But first of all, he met this woman, Anne, or I don't know if you call it cheating or whatever. Anne became pregnant. So he needed to divorce Catherine and marry Anne. That's just, because of the royal setup and so forth. So he married Anne, but Anne did not give him a son. Remember, King Henry needs an heir. So she did not give him a son. King Henry went on to marry four more times. He went on to marry four more times until he got a son. And he had a son whose name was King Edward the Sixth, whatever. King Edward became the heir of King Henry's throne. So King Edward, I'm sorry, at the time, he was an Anglican because his dad, King Henry, when he rejected the Catholic doctrine, he established the Anglican doctrine. Anglican, the Church of England, and he established the Anglican doctrine. So when King Edward, his son, uh, took the throne he got rid of the Anglican doctrine. Again, these are all mere mortal men. He got rid of the Anglican doctrine and he subscribed to the Protestant church. So right now, you're following the line. There was King Henry and then his son, King Edward, and so forth. When King Edward died, his sister became Queen Mary. Now, Queen Mary didn't like the Protestant religion. She did not like that. She preferred the Roman Catholic. So she got rid of all of that Roman Catholic. The Protestant. She got rid of all of that and started persecuting all the Protestants. And she persecuted the Protestant really badly. As a matter of fact, her name became Bloody Mary. It was Queen Mary. And I guess, that drink Bloody Mary, I'm assuming that's where it came from. But the point is, she established Catholicism back again in England, and, you had the Catholic religion. Then later on, there's a whole bunch. There's a whole slew of them. What the point I'm trying to make is that once you find out that these, when you go to church, you believe that you're following the word of God, from God, the Bible, and so forth. And even those of you that say, oh no, it's not about God, it's not about religion, it's about your relationship with God. Well, even if you break away from church and break away from religion, you are still following the doctrine. You are still doing the things based on your doctrinal training. Everything that you have learned is based on the doctrine that you have learned. So you're still connected to the doctrine. So whether you say with your mouth, oh, I'm not into religion, I'm not into, because today, in fact, again, I listen to a lot of podcasts and so forth. And when Christians come online, they don't even want to say that they're Christians, because there's some kind of a stigma now associated with Christianity. Of course, now you have the Christian nationalism, which is a whole different that's a whole different show. But Christianity has gotten kind of a bad rap. I'm not a Christian, so I'm not subject to that. But people say, well, I believe in God, or I follow the Bible, or I have a personal relationship with God and so forth, but they don't call themselves Christian. But in essence, you are, because if you believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, then you are a Christian. So the point is, so, you know, the people that have made these decisions is like King Henry. That was a personal and political decision that he made. Because why? Because the Pope said no to his quest for a divorce. He wanted to leave Catherine. he wanted to divorce her because she could not give him a son. And he just revolted, and he got rid of the Catholic Church and established the Anglican Church. But it's like if you went out and said, and of course, which happens today. Oh no, I don't agree with that, and I don't agree with what they're doing, and I don't agree with this, and I don't agree with the Eucharist, and I don't agree with with the Sabbath, and I don't agree with the way they baptize, and you come up with your own. These are mere people that are coming up, tweaking the doctrines and taking out certain parts and so forth. So now we have John Smith. John Smith, he established the Baptist Church. John Smith, the Baptist Church, and they, out of that Baptist doctrine, they had some branches. They had some branches of different, the first Baptist, the second Baptist, the third Baptist. They just have like different Baptist churches. And so, and then with that came along uh, William Miller. William Miller did not like that Baptist doctrine, did not like the way they did things, the way they believed, their belief system. He didn't like that whole Baptist doctrine. William Miller created the Adventist Church. And they talked about the Adventist Church. Their doctrine was a little different. But the thing with the Adventists is that they had this prediction that Christ, Jesus Christ, was going to return in the year of 1844. That was their big thing. They knew that they had it packed. They knew that they had the truth, and they knew that the return of Christ was going to be in 1844. The year 1844 came and went, and Christ did not come back. The church was very, very disappointed. They had some disappointments and questions and doubts and all of that. They were not happy with that. So then White, Ellen White, Ellen White was she was part of the congregant, and she called herself a prophetess. I don't know who ascribed that title to her. How do you become a prophetess or whatever? And in my mind, I am asking, if you were a prophetess, then you would have known that the prediction that this other the prediction that William Miller had about the return of Jesus, you would have known that it was not correct, that it wasn't true. Anyway, Ellen White was not happy with the Adventist church, the Adventist doctrine. So Ellen White founded what she calls Seventh Day Adventist Church. She founded the Seventh Day Adventist Church and instituted these rules and these laws, strict dietary rules, strict personal rules. You worship on the Sabbath, and you don't work, you don't do anything on the Sabbath. It's a holy day. No drinking of alcohol, no consuming alcohol, no tobacco, no jewelry except for your wedding ring only. Um, a whole bunch of stuff. Dietary laws. No pork. You cannot eat pork if you subscribe to that religion. No shellfish like crab or lobster or shrimp. None of that. What else? There's a whole bunch of stuff. I don't have it here, but anyway, a whole bunch of things, rules and laws, and you can't, you have to dress modestly. You can't dress like sexy, or, I would imagine you can't wear a bikini, or, just all these laws that you were supposed to follow as a 7-day Adventist. Now, my question is this Ellen White, for instance, she's the one that founded the Seventh Day Adventist Church. She's a person just like you, just like me. She's just a regular person, with a brain, with a vision, with intuition and guts and courage. And she just decided, I'm leaving this William Miller, and I'm going to start a different branch of Adventist church. And then she called it the Seventh Day Adventist, and instituted. She each one of them that started the doctrine, it's because they didn't like something from where they were. So they thought, you know what, I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm gonna go and start a new church. And it's something like, my husband and I, when we left church, we weren't looking for another church, because we just left. We just left because we got bored, we got tired, we got stifled. It was just non-progressive, non-growth, just the same thing over and over. And we were just, it's like, this is just not getting anywhere. So we just left. So we weren't looking for another church, because all church, they teach the same thing. They just tweak it a little differently. And then we discovered what works for us, and that was love, kindness, and compassion. So our lives is guided by the principle of love, kindness, and compassion. And that works for us. That works like a charm. That works perfect for us, keeps us in, good relations with people, and, of all cultures, all nations, all ethnicity, all race, all backgrounds, all of that. We get along with just everyone. Of course, you know what I mean. You may not like some people, but, as far as being able to get along, that's, you can do that, even if it's simply ignoring someone. So we when we broke off, I guess we could say, well, we started a church of two, my husband and I, but it works for us. It's been 15 years. And you can do the same, because what Ellen White did, imagine this. You have subject your entire life, your thought process, your behavior, everything about yourself, not just yourself, but your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren. You have subjected them to all of that uh, doctrine that a mere mortal, Ellen White, created. Ellen White decided, you know, Adventist just is not working for me. I'm going to create the Seventh Day Adventist Church. When I was little, my dad sent us to a. I was in boarding school. It was boarding school, and it was in Costa Rica. I don't know. I think I was about 8 or so. I was very young, and it was an Adventist uh, establishment, a Seventh Day Adventist school. And it's not because we were Seventh Day Adventists. We didn't grow up in church. We did not grow up in church. We grew up in going to Catholic school in my country, and then he wanted to send us off to boarding school, because that's what you do if you're in a position to do that. Anyway, that's what you do. You send your kids off to school, and they're supposed to come back with some kind of certificate or whatever. But anyway, and we were there at this Adventist school, and I didn't like it at all. I didn't like it. It was just so restrictive. They serve no meat, no meat. They used to serve something called gluten, and it was, they kind of made it like meat. They season it and whatever, and there was no meat, like no chicken, no fish, no kind of meat. And I didn't like that. And then, of course, they worship on Saturdays. There was the Sabbath that started Friday evening, Friday evening after, I guess, sundown or something like that. Everything just kind of like shuts down. It's boring to the max. And then you go to church, I think Friday night, and then Saturday morning you're in church again, then Saturday afternoon church again, and then Saturday night there's some kind of social with with the students. There's like a social. They used to call it Saturday night social or something like that. But the men are over there, the boys over there, and the girls are over here, and you could not. There was no, there was no contact at all. They were so strict. Of course, I was little, so that meant nothing to me, but that's the way it was. And the I remember that the older girls that were in perhaps sixth grade, or not sixth grade, about to graduate high school, they would fall in love with someone there over there, and but there was no contact. And I remember, now that I think back, there was such an element of frustration, because there were guys looking at them, and they're handsome guys, and they themselves were good looking girls, and but there was no contact. And um I remember there were some that used to escape. Excuse me. They used to escape and try to spend time together. And when I say spend time together, they would try to find a way to kiss. I mean, that was really true. Anyway, that was a school where I got kicked out 3 times. I got expelled 3 times. The first time, my dad was able to get me back. He talked with the general manager, the director of admissions, whatever. The second time, they were able to get me back, and because the tuition was high, so they negotiated something. The third time, they said absolutely not. They put me on a plane, because they're like, she is just uncontrollable. It was three of us that were the youngest in the dorm, and that was Ofma, Olga, and myself. And they were from other countries, but we were close, and we would just do a lot of mischiefs. I remember one time we went into the cane field, and did some things, try to get a chicken and cut up the chicken, and try to get meat. It's just a lot of mischief. We were just, and then we were sharp, because we would do things, and they would not find out until later. And anyway, so I was expelled from that, but that was a Seventh-day Adventist uh, school, and it was just so restrictive, so constrained, so where you just couldn't do anything. My sister did become a Seventh-day Adventist. She, of course, she's since left that religion as soon as she left the school, but I didn't. I rejected that with everything for some reason, and I didn't even know, because I guess for me, anything that seems to want to just hold me down, or stifle me, I for some reason, my wings just flap. I just keep flapping my wings and looking for ways to be myself, because there's just nothing more beautiful than when you can uh, be your true authentic self, because you become real. People like what they see. They get what they see, and it's just a place to be. You don't have to think, to perform, to pretend, to make excuses, ask for permission. You're just yourself. You learn to say no, you set boundaries, you go after what you want, and you get a lot of opportunities to really extend yourself to people, to extend yourself. But again, that was a Seventh-day Adventist establishment, school, boarding school, and we followed rules and laws governed by the doctrine of the Seventh-day Adventists. Now, I am just, well, since my deconstruction, learning that this whole thing, because when you're following a religion, you think in your mind that it's the religion established by God. It's the religion that was established by God, so you follow it. You don't even question it. That's not something you do. This search that I did when I became, when we left church and I started my journey of self discovery, that That search, I did that after I left church. But when I was in even the evangelical church, I didn't question, how did this start? Who came up with all this? Who did this? Who, because if they have a brain, I have a brain. And that's why I came to a place where I um am confident in my uh journey, because I know my truth that has set me free. But it's not something that I questioned when I was in church. You don't question, well, how did this start and who said, and you know what? It is true, because when the last church that we were in, my husband and I, the pastors of that church, they at one time belonged to another doctrine. I think it was like a Pentecostal holiness. I'm not sure, but it's one of those churches where you can't cut your hair, you don't wear makeup, you have a bun, you wear long skirts. One of those churches. And they left. They left that doctrine to become evangelical pastors, or, Protestant church, not Protestant, evangelical. So people move around. And I don't, it's interesting because they shared that why they left, but we didn't. It's not something that at the time you just don't question it. You're in church and you believe that what you hear from the pulpit is written in stone. It is doctrine. This is what you know, this is what you believe, and this is what you follow, this is what you observe, and that is it. That's how we are taught, that's how we are indoctrinated, that's the things we are told. And you don't question it. You simply don't question it, because it's the word of God, and you go by that. It's just when you hit a brick wall, like now that you are trying to uh, go through a journey of self-discovery, and you're trying to find out who the hell am I? It's like, what? It's like, why do I think this way? Why do I believe this way? Why am I afraid? Why am I, why do I, afraid of hell? Looking forward to heaven. Who says what, and who? You That's why you are that way now, because you are now discovering, wait a minute, I have not taken time to check. I have not taken time to discover my truth. And when you do, you're going to surprise yourself. You're going to find a freedom that you've never had. A freedom that you've never had. But you have to first find the truth. And it brings you to a place of rest. You will rest in your peace, and you will be happy. Those are your markers. You will be at peace with your thoughts. And even if nobody can talk to me about hell, because first of all, there's no such thing as hell. So you cannot even talk to me about heaven, because that's not a place that I'm looking forward to go, because there is no such thing as, heaven. No hell, no heaven. And no one, not one person can tell you that they have seen God. You've got to get down to the nitty gritty, because you're going to hear a whole bunch of stuff. I hear stuff on social media, people trying to sell you religion and sell you a doctrine and sell you hope. Hope is good, except when you've been waiting for 20 years. Then hope deferred make your heart sick, because it's deferred. Nothing is happening. You live on hope and hope and hope. And, something good is going to happen to you. Something good is going to happen to you. A blessing is coming your way. A blessing is coming your way. Finances are coming. You're going to abound in finances. The windows of heaven is going to open, and, you're going to have more than enough where you cannot contain all of that. And you keep every week, you keep hoping and hoping and believing and believing and hoping and hoping and hoping and hoping and there are people that are not well, that really needs to be healed, and they, they keep hoping and hoping and hoping. And if you get healed, you cannot tell me God did that. That happens. That happens. Because if God did that, then my question would be, why isn't he at St. Jude's or at Children's Hospital or any hospital for that matter? So you cannot say you've been blessed because you were healed. I would question, wait a minute, God, if you have something, some kind of an ailment, and you are healed, or you are in, if it's cancer, you're in remission, whatever it is, and you are healed. Understand this, my friend. It's not necessarily that God has healed you, because if that's the case, you should say, now, wait a minute, I've got a friend, or I know somebody, or I know somebody at St. Jude's, or I know somebody at Children's Hospital. Can we go there? God, and the same power that God has that's healed you, let's go there and heal those kids. So, things happen. Things happen. People get healed, and but it's not a miracle. It's not like a healing. People just get healed. And some people, by their own mental mindset and functioning, in their minds, they just channel their thoughts and all their energy and all their emotion and feelings and so forth, and see themselves, in a visual as health and healing and so forth. And some people, heal themselves that way. So it's no big deal. I mean, it's a big deal, and glad that you're healed. But it's not anything supernatural. There is nothing supernatural that happens. There are just things that we don't understand. Nothing is supernatural. That's really adding to the whole mix. There's nothing that is supernatural. It's just things that we don't understand. There's scientific proof for a lot of stuff, but certain things we don't understand. We don't call it supernatural, superstitious, superman, anything that's super, it's not real. So I'm saying this: Ellen White established this Seventh Day Adventist church. I mean, she just, did her thing, and till this day, you've got thousands of people following Ellen White's doctrine. Remember, she broke off from William Miller. She broke off from that doctrine. She didn't like the way he did things, and then he predicted the coming of, and you know what? One of the things that she said that since 1844, because remember, this William Miller is the one that predicted that Jesus Christ would return in 1844. And because that didn't happen, she said that from 1844 till now, that God is keeping a registry of the behavior of every believer for Judgment Day. That is her thought for Judgment Day. And that is her thought. That is her thought. And so many people are following that today. Not wearing any jewelry, not eating some. I told you, we had someone that came to our house one day. They were visiting from another country, and they came to our house, and we prepared a pasta dish, like shrimp scampi or something like that. Really, with lots of big, thick, juicy shrimp. And we cook shrimp really good. You don't want to overcook the shrimp. You want to cook it enough so that it stays moist and soft and so forth, with pasta. It was so delicious. So we had this person over, and we had some other people over for dinner. Now, one of the local people, persons, was, took this guy out to shopping. This was a Saturday. So in the morning, they got up and they went out shopping. They went out and did a whole bunch of shopping. And in the afternoon, they came to our home, and we had this, but just the smell of it was so delicious. So everybody served themselves. Everybody served themselves the shrimp scampi. There was a lot of shrimp in that dish. I would not, I would not forget that. And there was a lot of shrimp. And so this person, and I believe he knew. It just smelled so good that he wanted that. This person served himself a big plate. It was a lot. Big plate of pasta with the shrimp. Shrimp was in there. And so we sat at the table. We all sat at the table and, started eating and so forth. And then this woman over here said, "Wait a minute. Aren't you uh, aren't you not supposed to eat shrimp? Shellfish?" And the person that was the Seventh Day Adventist said, "Oh my gosh." And you know what he did? He proceeded to remove all the shrimp. He had already eaten about three or four big shrimps. He proceeded to remove all the shrimp from his pasta plate, and somebody else took the shrimp. Now, you tell me, are you telling me that he didn't know that he couldn't eat shrimp? You know, He's a 7 Day Adventist, and this is an adult man. Now, I can't, it's not to where you could say, well, he just wanted to be polite and eat what was placed before him. That is not it, amigo. That is not it. And then this person, I guess she wanted to roast him. She said, "Wait a minute, and you went shopping today? You're not supposed to shop on a Saturday." And it was like, oh my gosh, I- all of that was an act. I don't believe, I believe that he knew exactly what he was doing. But the smell of the dish was so delicious. He ate 4 pieces of shrimp. Now you can't eat shrimp. So what are you trying? But she called him out. She said, "Wait a minute, you're not supposed to eat shrimp." And he's like, "Oh my gosh!" And they said, "Wait a minute, you went shopping today. You're not supposed to go shopping on a Saturday. That's their holy day, and they could have done that during the week, but he went shopping." So my point is, had she not called him out, he would have continued eating and enjoying, because he was really enjoying. Now, if you know that the pasta is cooked with, or is blended with the shrimp, you should get rid of everything. I mean, we had other stuff that he could have eaten, but he ate the pasta. He got rid of the shrimp that was in the pasta, and so these are laws that Ellen White instituted. These are laws that she instituted in the Seventh Day Adventist religion, in the doctrine. She tells them that you cannot eat that doctrine. You cannot eat pork, and you cannot eat shellfish. And we were, when we made that dish, we I don't know what we were thinking. We just made it because it was a dish that most of the people that were coming is what they like. And we weren't thinking in terms of shellfish, because we know that they can't eat pork, but shellfish is not something that we really thought about. We didn't, because if we had thought about it, we would not have cooked uh shellfish, shrimp. But we did. And anyway, everybody enjoyed it, and he went on to eat the pasta and so forth. But I think he knew. I think he knew. My point is, do you see how, the human element is? That was not like, because he would have known, if that's the doctrine you follow, you would have known that. You would have known that that is a no-no. No bueno. That's a no-no. But he went on. He started eating it, and she called him out, messed up his whole jam, and so he stopped. But that doctrine was set up by Ellen G. White, the Seventh Day Adventist, one mortal person that calls herself a prophetess. Like, who the hell named you a prophetess? Like, where does that come from? Like, where do prophets come from? And if you're a prophet, you ought to be able to prophesy. I remember there used to be this guy. His name was Clement something, and he's died now, but so many people that call themselves prophet and prophetess and so forth, and they may say stuff that people that may happen, but it's like who's called you to be a prophet or prophetess? I mean, I don't know. The point is, she called herself a prophetess. And Ellen G. White is the person that founded the Seventh day Adventist Church and instituted all these laws that keeps people, confined and bound to a doctrine that, according to her, she may have she got it from herself. You can't say you got it inspired from God. You got that from yourself. You got that from yourself, because if you got it inspired by God, this guy over here would have, if that's within me, if it's something that's, let's see here, I am just free to eat whatever I want. Just certain things I don't like, but there's certain things that I don't do because I go by the principle of treat your neighbors kindly and things like that, but there's certain things that you simply don't do just because it's not within you. Well, this person, obviously he wanted to, and you know what I believe, because he was out of the country, away from his environment, that he allowed himself to just be. Just imagine, he allowed himself to just be and to go out shopping and buying stuff, and just he wouldn't have to give an account to anyone when he goes back. But it's not about giving an account to anyone. It's giving an account to the person that you say you worship through this religious doctrine. All these doctrines are set up by a whole bunch of people. And then comes along Charles Russell. Charles T. Russell, he did not like the Adventist doctrine, and he started Jehovah Witness. He started this, watchtower, and he started the Jehovah Witness Church. And I think for them, it's you can't celebrate Christmas, you don't celebrate birthdays, you don't celebrate. There's no celebration. He again, that is Charles. He instituted. He's the one that created that type of doctrine, and then after that many pastors came along, John Wesley and Joseph Smith. He's the one that founded the Mormon church, and then with the Mormon church, you had plural marriages. It's like, where does that come from? And it's interesting because these plural marriages was men marrying, having multiple wives. I don't know of any instance where there was a woman with multiple husbands. It didn't work that way. See, patriarchal. It's all this. Once you understand that all this stuff was created by mere man, people like you and me, it's just mere man. No one is that anointed that I don't care who you are, not even the Pope, and the Pope knows it. That's why he is kind of, he's kind of, he's kind of real. He's a realist. He deals with reality, and something he's too liberal. But I don't even, when I went to Rome, I wanted to have a cup of coffee with him. He was sleeping. We stood in front of the Vatican over there, and we were taking pictures and whatever. And so I said, I'm waiting for him to come down and have a cup of coffee. Let's just chat about stuff. Not, I didn't need prayer or for him to lay hands on me or do the no, I didn't need any of that. It's the Pope. It's the Pope. And all this whole decorum, like we have in churches, and we ordain elders and pastors and assistant pastors and all these titles that we assign to people at church. This is all man-made, man-created. They are no different than you. That's why today, even pastors, you find, pastors that are getting into, that here in my city, we have had in the last few months, we have had like about 5 or 6 pastors that's been exposed for indecency or sexual assault to a minor, and we have quite a few. They are subject to the same weaknesses like you and me. That's why it is important that you know your truth. Your truth, if you are attending church, if you are following a religious doctrine, that is not your doctrine, my friend. That is a doctrine founded, instituted, implemented, created by someone else. Joseph Smith created Mormonism. Charles Russell created Jehovah Witness. Ellen White, Seventh-day Adventist. William Miller, Adventist. And then you have John Smith. He didn't like the Anglican, and he created the Baptist Church. And if you go further down, there's a Joseph Smith. Well, yeah, the Mormon, I already said that. And then there were all other pastors that created Pentecostal church and evangelist church and just a whole menu of churches based on their doctrinal criteria, their perception, their way of seeing things, their opinion, their take, their views. It's theirs, it's not yours. And then you come down to this guy, his name is George Hensley. You know what he did? He founded the snake handling Christianity based on a scripture in Mark something. And it has to do with like Pentecostal and holiness church. But the snake handling, are you familiar with that snake handling church? There's a scripture that says that you will handle snake or drink any kind of poison and it will do you no harm. Well, look it up. You know that a few pastors have died because they've been bitten by snakes. Imagine raising your child in a snake handling Christianity doctrine. That's reality. You may say, well, that's extreme. It exists. It exists. And it's no different from the Baptist, the Methodist, the Catholic, the Episcopalian, the Lutheran, the Pentecostal. They're all the same. They're all the same. Last week, I talked about Jim Jones, and I don't know if I really told the story for those of you that may not have known the story. Jim Jones was some kind of a pastor here in America, and he had a following of over 1,000 people. And for some reason, I don't know, he got them to the country of the island of Guyana. And, he had some kind of a doctrine. I'm not sure what it was, but the point is, all these people went with Jim Jones, and he gave them Kool-Aid. They all drank the Kool-Aid. It was a Christian cult. It was like a cult. They all drank the Kool-Aid and they all died. There's a sea of dead bodies, women and children and men, and they all died. There was poison in the Kool-Aid, and I don't know what was the objective. And then when I mentioned also David Koresh was a branch of Davidian Christianity. And he was in Waco, Texas, with a whole bunch of believers. And there was a standoff with the authorities and whatever. And then finally they blew up themselves and there was a fire and they all died. So there are things that you need to know. It's important that you know for yourself. You may not be in a situation where it's as extreme, but let me tell you, my friend, the fact that you are finding it conflicting between your religion and your desire to learn who you are and to become your true authentic self, and that it's hard for you to bridge it. It's because you can't bridge it because it's not yours. This religious thing over here, it's not yours. Find your own. Find what works for you, and that will be okay. Ellen White did. All these other guys did. Charles Russell and William Miller, Joseph Smith, King Edward. I mean, look at King Edward. He wanted a divorce, and the Pope Clement said no divorce in the Catholic Church, and he just got rid of him. He got rid of him and started the Anglican Church. So you see how that works? You can start your own. You don't need to start a church. You just need to discover what works for you, because the doctrine that you have, the doctrine that you are guided by, whether it's, and you can say, well, I just follow the Bible. The Bible, again, is written by mortal man. And, when they talk about there's contradictions in the Bible, it's not contradiction. Leviticus was written by one person. Deuteronomy, Exodus, and other books of the Bible, Joshua, they were written by different people. Leviticus, the writer of Leviticus, had his own take on things, his own views, his own perception, his own perspective. And then the guy who wrote Exodus had a different perspective. The guy who wrote Deuteronomy had a different perspective. Why? Because they are individuals. They come up with things of their own. The human mind functions differently. So Deuteronomy is written by one guy, and Leviticus is written by, but they're talking about the same thing, and it seems contradictory. No, it's not. In one verse, God says, "I will wipe out your sin. I will wipe it out completely." And in the other book, he wrote that God said, your sins will go down to your children and your children's children and so forth. The same God. Now, are you going to wipe out all the sins, or are you going to have the children inherit the sins of the parents? It seemed contradictory, but they're two different writers. They didn't confer with each other. It's like me, our principle is love, kindness, and compassion. That works for us. We didn't confer with someone else. That may work for you, but you need to discover what works for you. Because neither the Bible or your religious doctrine, that doesn't come from you. All of that is what you will know as indoctrination, programming, conditioning, brainwashing. And that's the same thing we do to our children. Why? Because it's a belief system that we have acquired, and we go through life acquiring a personality, that really doesn't belong to us, an identity that's really not ours. And unless you go through a journey of self-discovery where you can discover who you are and begin to walk and function in your true authentic self, you will continue to go through life in with an identity that's not yours, and you will not find your truth. And again, it is your truth that sets you free. It is your truth that sets you free, not Ellen G. White's truth. That's her truth, and she's dead. And throughout the whole world, you have people that are walking in this Adventist, and with this experience with the person that came and we had dinner for and so forth, that person, they really wanted to just let loose, let their hair down, and just be. You could tell, because when he was called out, he's like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, no, oh my gosh, you knew, because you're not used to shrimp. You know, and you can't say, well, you just want to be polite." No, that's not the case, because had we served pork, which is something more identifiable, it would have been a piece of steak pork. They would have realized that, wait a minute, not pork, but then shrimp is something that he never tried, and he liked it. He liked it. And if he was so strict with it, now he plucked out the remaining shrimp, because it's interesting, because everybody served themselves, and he served himself a big plate with a lot of shrimp. Why would you do that? It smelled good, and when he tasted it, it tasted good. Who knows if he'd ever had shrimp? But he knew that it wasn't any kind of gluten or any kind of tofu food. He ate it. So that's the whole thing. That's, he could not be himself, but you could tell he wanted to let his hair down. He was here by himself. There was no one to give an account to. He didn't have to report to anyone. And, so it tells me that what they did in the past, it was for show. It wasn't something that was on the inside of him that he could say, this is my belief and I follow this because in honor of God, I follow this. I'm going to leave you with that, my friend, because you know what? Whatever it is that you're doing, the thoughts that you have, the belief system that you're guided by, you need to revisit it. And if it doesn't come from you, it is not your truth. Only the truth that comes from you. Remember, you have a brain, you have a mind, you have feelings, emotions, and intuition. to follow, just like Ellen G. White did when she said, no, I don't want this Adventist stuff. I'm going to start the Seventh day Adventist Church. And she did, and have a whole bunch of people dragging along. And that's the same with all the other churches, the Pentecostal, the Evangelical, the Baptist, the Methodist, the Lutheran, all of those churches, Catholic, Episcopal, all of that. This is just a taste. I encourage you to go check it for yourself, because when you check it for yourself, you learn it for yourself. And once you learn it, it becomes yours. Until next Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have a date right here. And if you can't meet me right here at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time next Thursday, you can look up the show on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube 24/7. Drop me a note if you need to chat at info@thecynthialinoxshow.com, and whatever questions you may have. And I'm also a certified life coach. If you need someone to have a closer connection with you so that you can go through and learn some things, or, help you navigate through this journey, drop me a note. info@thecynthialinoxshow.com, and we'll chat and I will respond to you. In the meantime, today's Thursday. Remember, tomorrow is Friday, and then comes the weekend. We're looking forward to a great weekend. This is our anniversary month. And so we're going to do something special this Saturday, and I am looking forward to that. In the meantime, I will see you next week. Ciao, au revoir. Ciao, amigos. Hasta la próxima. We'll see you then. Ciao.